Hello, everybody, and welcome to the newest indoor adventures in Ghosts of Saltmarsh Salvage Operation, Part 4. All you audiocast listeners should know that today is August 29th, 2019, and you are loved. And that goes for all you videocast watchers and pretty much anybody out there. Anybody out there who is listening to this or who possibly isn't listening to it. Let them know that they're loved too, because they probably need to hear it more than anybody. Other things to remember, we do this show Monday, Tuesday, and Thursdays at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here at twitch.tv/indoor adventures. Like we already mentioned, we have an audio cast, we got YouTube VODs. You can find all of that under the same moniker of Indoor Adventures. Other than that, we have multiple ways to support the show. Of course, there are Twitch subs. We also have a Patreon set up. So if you're interested in possibly getting access to our after show nights in the courtyard, where we answer questions not only from the community, but also from each other, consider checking out patreon.com/indooradventures. And if you've already support the show via Twitch, you already support the show via Patreon. Have you considered bit.ly/adventure merch, a really cool place to find some really cool stuff? We got posters, we got t-shirts, we got mugs, we got sweatshirts, we got crop tops, soon pants. We got everything that you could possibly want to help keep you cool through the summers or warm through the winters. We even got like pillows and blankets and stuff. So consider going to bit.ly/adventure merch to help support the show. Other than that, a brief announcement. We passed over 1,000 views on part 1 of Saltmarsh today, which this has never happened before. So thank you to everybody who helped make that possible. That was really cool. It's really humbling to see that you guys like the show so much that you've stopped by that many times. So thank you. But let us go into the show. So, of course, we have our missing player, WheresMyDingus, she, her, who plays Hish Sunguard, who uses he, him, a half-orc fighter. Reeves, who are you playing tonight?
I am playing Ulman Dark, and him, who use he, him, or they, them.
Hi, I'm Cyber. I play Albus. He's a Kalashtar Bard. He uses him. I use him too.
Hi everyone, it's me. I'm KyleWithAnN. I'm back again, and I'm playing our good friend Jilfa'en, that half-elf storm cleric. We both use Tempest cleric, rather. We both use she, her.
And tonight, I am the indoor adventurer. I use he, him, but most importantly, I shall be your dungeon master. So, last we left off, as well as a brief review for KyleWithAnN, who I gave a written rundown earlier, but for all of you viewers/listeners who I did not send a personal message to outlining what happened last episode, let's get into it. So, you guys had boarded the Iron Duke, a ship from Hish's past. Upon doing so, you ended up going below deck where you found an altar to Lolth, the spider god, and considering that it was indeed an altar to Lolth, you had to go through a boat full of an unimaginable number of spiders. The first room, even, having hundreds and hundreds of very tiny spiders, as well as a bipedal spider man known as an ettercap, and a giant spider. After clearing out this hopeless number of spiders, you guys descended down further into the ship, where Hish found a very disturbing journal outlining that the crew of the Iron Duke had actually survived, but they were stuck on an island that was prominent with cannibals. One of the ship members, Krell, ended up joining in with these cannibals and meticulously removed Hish's previous crew in lieu of meals. They, after reading this, you guys again descended further down into the ship, where you ended up finding the chest that you were seeking. After defeating 4 ghasts, which were actually Hish's former crewmates, you then were subject to the attack of a giant an elder giant octopus who had wrapped the Iron Duke with its tentacles and began crushing the ship, pulling it down under. After an incredibly tense chase scene, you guys managed to get up to the deck of the ship, where you fought off Krell However, a face spider, presumably Krell's pet, ended up poofing into existence and biting down on Albus, and then the following turn biting down on Jill, where the two of them became unconscious and fell down the side of the ship, getting near to the ocean as the tendrils from the octopus continued to pull them down. In that moment, Hish took the safe that you guys had been after, threw it into the dinghy from your own ship, and then both Ulman and Hish dove after the two party members that were currently getting sucked down into the flotsam. After rescuing both of these party members and watching the remains of the Iron Duke sink into the ocean proper, Ulman, you and Hish swam your way over to the dinghy and we're able to board inside, and that is where we are going to pick back up. Is Jill and Albus getting propped up into these boats as Hish then pulls himself into the dinghy as well, and then offers to get you up into the dinghy if you need any assistance. But with your acrobatics, I highly doubt that you need assistance in this matter. So currently, as you get into the dinghy, Hish just points back towards your own ship and just, we need to go. Go, 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 go. What are you doing? Go! And we need to get the fuck out of here. I do not know if that is going to fight us next, but let us leave this place. And your hirelings also agree very vehemently. You guys got what you came for. Make your way back to the ship. And upon arriving back at your ship, Hish, as soon as you get back onto the deck, Hish is up, running up to the helm, and is currently spinning the wheel, so that way you guys can try and right yourself and just get out of the area proper. Ulman, what would you like to do?
Both of them are paralyzed, so I think I'll carry them to, resting places.
Okay.
So that they're comfortable, at least. Well, the paralysis wears off. As long as they're both, they're both soaking, but I can't change them.
No.
That would be inappropriate.
It's true.
But I can at least wrap them up in blankets and make them comfortable.
For sure. And you also know that the room that you and Bims typically share with the hammocks actually has 3 hammocks that are set up, and it's on the top deck, so it's easiest to actually bring them in. It is a little bit harder to pick up Jill than it is Albus, just because Jill does have heavier things on her, but very easily you manage to get them in there. And then for the spider, I need to check, but I believe that the paralyze only lasts an hour. So then you guys would be able to be freed from this terrible thing. Monster manual, come into mine hands. But yeah, so for right now, unconscious at 0, stabilized, unconscious.
I just kind of wait in there anxiously.
Okay, sounds good. So I need to always say the alphabet in my head before I go looking for things. I think it's in spider is the section.
Yes, the spider section.
You jest, but it's totally here.
There is a spider section. You could also look it up on D&D Beyond.
How many spiders are in the spider
there
section?
it is. It was in the very back. Yes, so you guys are poisoned for 1 hour and paralyzed while poisoned in this way. So, the poison is going to work its course through, but Albus, I would like for both you and Jill to make, to just roll a d4 for me.
Three.
2.
Okay, so, Ulman, at any point do you try and wake them up, or do you just leave them?
I think I'm kind of trying to tend to them if I can. So he's kind of absently poking at them to like see if they've regained enough motion that he can like reposition them to a less or a more comfortable position then.
Okay. Make a nature check or an insight check.
23.
Okay.
Nature.
Yeah, you would know that a poison like this will usually run its course in about an hour. So you wait an hour as you can feel the ship getting moved, and you hear Hish's yelling from up top, and eventually that sort of that subsides enough that you feel like you have gotten far enough away, and you can now wake up both Albus and Jill from their unconscious states.
I wake them up then, kind of like lightly shake Albus on the shoulder and then move over and lightly shake Jilfa'en. Are you two all right? Wakey, wakey.
What happened exactly?
Well, a lot. You were both bitten by phase spider, who I failed to eliminate, but it went away. You were both tossed into the ocean as you were paralyzed. Hish and I jumped in after you. We got the box. We're getting paid.
That at least is some positive news. And she'll try and like stretch out and just.
Albus will just like, where did you set us?
Both in hammocks.
Yeah, Albus will just like roll and then like flop on the ground. Ow. And then he'll just resign himself to his current state.
You know, with
His
your
face down on the floor.
constitution, I'd be worried that could kill you.
Indoor, was I 20 feet up?
Not this time. This time you were fine. It was like, it's more just suffering social indignity. Like you were in a hammock and you fell out. If you've ever been in a hammock and kind of like struggled your way onto the floor, that is what Albus just went through.
I know I'm supposed to be in this state for some sort of reason, but I really enjoy being a god again.
I suppose we all would, wouldn't we?
Question for you, Ulman. Have you been using any more of your warlock powers in my absence?
Like, are you asking me directly?
No. This is KyleWithAnN asking you.
Yeah, I've sniffed some more dudes.
You also used your shield spell that caused knives to jut out of your neck.
Oh yeah, no. That was the
Hellish Rebuke. Sorry.
Hellish Rebuke. My shield was just literally another shield coming out of like my stomach where I was about to get hit.
Gnarly. Yeah, so Jill will make a remark along the lines of, well, I'm sure your newfound goddess will find it a shame that you saved Albus and I from drowning, but I'm grateful.
He looks at you very seriously for a moment and says, I wouldn't let you drown again.
Thank you. And she'll just be like, so where's Hish?
Commanding the ship. It's only been an hour.
Okay. All right then. And we have nothing else to worry about? Nothing's chasing us? Nothing's...
Well, maybe whatever that thing was, but it doesn't seem to be after us. It's been an hour, and I haven't heard yelling about it.
Do we know what that thing is?
Make a nature check.
Okay. Let me consult my knowledge of the creatures of the sea.
I'll say nature or history. You can use either of those two.
They're the same.
Okay.
14.
21.
Okay.
30-20.
Okay. What skill are you using, history or nature? Because it determines how you know about it.
Nature.
Okay. Nature.
History.
History.
Nature.
Okay. So nature. So the two of you that rolled with nature know that things left to grow in the sea that are able to avoid predators sometimes just go unchecked in terms of growth scale. And it seemed like, especially if they survive long enough, and based off of how large this creature was, which once you had gotten up top, you would realize that these looked like octopus tendrils coming off, that this was some sort of either ancient or elder giant octopus that had survived off of the coast for just an unreasonable amount of time, but was able to just kind of be. And it seemed to just be going after the ship. Albus, you had heard stories while living on the northern coast that sometimes creatures like this would exist, and more often than not they would get mislabeled as krakens, specifically for their large size, the tendrils coming out of the ocean, and their ability to destroy ships. However, based off of the stories that you've read, based off of kind of learning about the general coast of Faerun, you are able to more easily identify what this was rather than an actual kraken. This was an elder giant octopus.
It's not the worst thing we could have encountered.
Well, it certainly wasn't the best.
Or made for a stressful exit.
Well, any case, I'm glad to be done with that.
I couldn't agree more.
Let me see if I can find my way to make myself useful around the ship. I'm tired of posting up in bed, feeling pretty lazy.
Maybe put on something dry as well.
Oh, right, that. If you'll excuse me. Jill will kind of get up in her nasty wet clothes and make off to her quarters to change and see how she can make herself useful.
Albus will resign himself in his nasty wet clothes, like he's been doing for this entire campaign. I cannot hear you.
Yeah, I was going to say, if anything, this is probably kind of nice. This is the ocean's freshest layer upon you. Like, normally it's like, you've been on the boat for a while, feeling kind of dry, kind of crusty, got to re-up on that brine. So yeah, you're feeling kind of wet. Are you going to be, you said you were helping out on the ship as well?
If I'm no longer at 0 hit points, then yeah.
Yeah, you guys are both stabilized at 1. You can both take short rests if you would like. Anyone can take a short rest.
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna take a short rest.
Okay.
Certainly gonna do that. Let me just roll some dice real quick.
Sounds good.
Hold on 1 second. Albus will sing a song of rest, but it's another poem. The sea is calm tonight. The tide is full. The moon lays fair upon the straits. On the generic tie-in for French coast, the light gleams and is gone. The cliffs of generic stand-in for England stand glimmering and vast on the tranquil bay. come to the window, sweet as the night air. Only from the long line of spray where the sea meets the moon-blanched land. Listen, you hear the grating roar of pebbles, which the waves draw back and fling at their return. Up the high strand, begin and cease, and then again begin, with tremulous cadence slow, and bring the eternal note of sadness in.
Very nice. That's an extra D8, or what my hit dice is?
That's gonna be 1d6.
Oh, an extra 1d6. Perfect. Thank you. Woo. Okay. Ooh, I am rolling hot on these. Rolling hot.
Nice. All right, so you guys take your short rest while you are figuring out things to do. Ulman, you are probably going to be going to start cooking or doing something. And Jill, you end up being able to switch out of your wet clothes into dry clothes, no problem, especially because you've taken up residence in this ship. Everyone else seems to kind of stay on the mainland whenever you guys actually are in harbor, but you seem to stay primarily on the ship. So you have all of your clothes there, no problem. Able to quickly change. And then as the first mate, you are able to then go back out and begin help directing people. Make a persuasion roll.
Ooh, boy. Okay. No, that's not that bad. That's another 13.
Okay. Yeah, so being able to be the first mate and kind of check around where people need help, where people need basically an extra set of hands, you are more than able to kind of go around. And when you look up at Hish, who is currently still behind the helm, you see that Hish kind of has this 1,000-yard stare, just looking straight ahead, and is just every once in a while you'll see them kind of like shake their head a little bit, almost like they're getting the equivalent of road hypnotism, like they are just looking at the same spot going in front of them for so long that it's almost like this borderline hypnotic effect.
I think with that, Jill will go over to Hish and just be like, I can take over for you if you're not feeling well.
Thanks. We're just going that way, and points like directly ahead from where you guys are. I mean, it's 5 days out. Just don't veer. We should be fine.
Don't worry, Hish. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself, though.
And again, they're having the like kind of more looking at the floor, just nodding to themselves. Just yeah. If you need anything, you know where to find me. And with that, just kind of turns on his heel very characteristically, and then just sort of very like Hish normally walks with a lot of confidence in his stride, kind of this pumped up chest, but you see that he looks tired. Just going back to his bunk, the events that unfolded today on the Iron Duke seem to be taking a serious toll on his mental state. But he's dealing with it, and he seems capable of dealing with it.
Okay. I think Jill will shoo him off to his quarters and take the helm. Her hand with the symbol of Umberly glowing as she guides the ship.
While we're in just like a day, like during the first day, Albus is going to be keeping a pretty close eye on the water because he knows this is very close to where that the jewel was spotted and killed.
Okay. Yeah, on the first day of you guys heading back, because you know that it is going to take longer than 5 days, and I think it was 8 days total that it took you guys to actually get up to this place, so it's going to take about 8 days travel heading back. Oh, my nose is so itchy. But yeah, so on this first day, you can just be looking out, making sure that at least looking for jewel, if there are any. And then, Ulman, you said you wanted to do something? Or you raised your hand for it?
As Hish begins to walk to their quarters, Bims, scrabbles down from a perch and runs into the kitchen and, gives me the signal so that I can bring them some food.
Okay.
As soon as they're off shift, I just, appear and I'm like, eat this.
And Hish will look at it and then look at you. Thanks, Ulman.
Of course.
And then just as they go inside, you can hear the familiar sound of a plate kind of being placed onto a table.
I just head back to the kitchen.
Okay. All right, so you guys know that you are going to have a total of 8 days to get back to Saltmarsh. Albus, you are looking for either the island where the jewels originated from or to see if you can spot any jewels themselves. Make a survival or perception check.
Natural Kraken.
Okay, so it is actually on the second day of travel that as you're sailing by, you get this headwind that seems to roll through.
It's a little Kraken.
And on it, you smell something, and this smell is very familiar. It's not necessarily the smell of fish. It's not necessarily the smell of the ocean. This smells, in a very strange way, this smells like home.
Jill, can we hold on?
And as you kind of focus and you close your eyes, you feel your migraine, this ever-present migraine that you have, actually seems to hone in from being all-encompassing to just being a beaded point. And as you kind of turn your body, turn your head, you feel as if that point is actually staying in your mind.
Do I see anything in that direction?
Off in the distance, just at the edges of your vision, you see that there is a jut, a jutting out of the ocean itself that seems like it actually is potentially an island. And as you kind of take a look at it, you feel like that is where this migraine is almost calling to you. And Hish and Jill, or no, because Albus, you are the helmsman, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so Albus, I would like for you, yes, I would like for you to make a survival check with advantage.
One of those was 1. The other one is a dirty 20. I don't know if I add my navigator's tools to that.
Yeah, you would add navigator's tools proficiency to that.
Okay, then 23.
Okay. Yeah, so with your 23, you are able to very expertly kind of navigate these waters, because as you get closer, the water itself gets choppier. You can see that there is a layer of fog that seems to kind of be rolling out from the surrounding area as well. And as you navigate, it's almost like you're just following this migraine. And as you make these very delicate turns, just kind of following the way that it seems to be dragging you, you watch as your ship, Oliver's Triumph, is just barely passing by what look to be the remains of dozens, if not hundreds, of ships that are just littered throughout this area.
I think having seen those out of my kitchen window, I come up and I'm like, what's with the, all the ships?
Albus isn't responsive.
Would I, in my years of sailing, be at least somewhat, or at least maybe even secondhand familiar with this place?
Make a history check.
See if it's one of those, old shipwreck code.
Both things.
16.
Okay. So with a 16, you remember many years ago that there was a story that you heard about this isle, particularly about how there was a order of monks that all lived on this isle. Not necessarily because they wanted to, but because there were such bad whirlpools and such terrible kind of environmental hazards that passing ships had a extreme tendency of actually washing up and kind of wrecking themselves against. Most people avoid this passage as a whole, but Albus seems to have steered you directly towards it, almost as if he was called to it by something. And you remember, more so than anything, kind of just getting to talk to other Umberlites, that there were those that believed that this might be a drowning site. Specifically, there is a religious process in your Umberland order that involves the active drowning of oneself to prove their loyalty to Umberly. And with the sheer number of shipwrecks, this seemed very much like a location that would be targeted specifically for the amount of shipwrecks. Like a good cleric worth their salt would be able to help navigate a ship through, whereas clerics of lesser faiths might find themselves in the wreckage around.
Yeah, I think Jill is going to find Albus. I'm sure he's not far, and just be like, Albus, we're not taking the ship in there.
He's not responding.
Albus! And she's just gonna like wave her hand in front of his face.
What?
Look out there. We're not taking the ship in there.
Right. Okay.
Are you alright?
I haven't been all right in a long time.
Well, you seem less alright than I am accustomed to.
Right. Sorry, I thought I might find someone here.
If you want, we can perhaps take some of the dinghies on board, but I'm not bringing the ship in there. It's too much of a risk.
Okay. He's clearly still, like, dazed.
Do you know what you're looking for?
A jewel, or whoever, ideally whoever the master would be.
Are they dangerous?
Yes.
Well then, suppose you can't go alone then.
Always gotta have at least your bodyguard.
Is Hish all right?
No.
I think so.
There is the sound of a door that opens and slams shut, and you see Hish comes out with the one coffee mug that they seem to always use first thing in the morning. It says "Number 1 Dad" on it, and Hish looks around and just says, "Who's sailing the ship into a graveyard?" And then looks up. Albus comes up, walks up the stairs. Are you trying to get us killed?
Not particularly.
Where are we going? What this is? I have a compass in my room. It tells me if we're going the right direction, south or not. And right now we're going west. Why are we going west?
I thought I could find someone.
Albus, is this someone like us, or is this someone like you?
Someone like me.
Okay. And if you found them, what would you do?
Try and find out what I'm supposed to do.
Okay. We're not taking the ship in there.
Right.
No.
I already made that clear.
Well, this is why you're first mate, Jill. A good head on your shoulders. Seeing as how some of the events played out yesterday, I think it might be best if I stay here on the ship. Mostly, and he looks over at Albus. Yeah. I'll have one of the hirelings be ready to sail me out in case you guys need anything. We'll go as far as where we can see the shore. That way I can watch you knuckleheads in case something bad happens.
Thank you, Hish.
Well, I didn't realize I was necessarily getting myself roped into this, but I don't think you two would be able to navigate there safely, so might as well.
For this job, I'm completely muscle.
Well, gather your things, gentlemen. I'll Get the dinghy ready.
Okay. So yeah, you guys spend the next 30 minutes or so gathering all of your things, and eventually a dinghy is ready for you. You guys have 2 dinghies on board, so there is still the option of Hish being able to join you via dinghy should you be in dire need of help later on. And as the 3 of you get into your raft, it's lowered down into the water, and you begin just rowing yourself towards this isle. And it takes some time, to be fair. As you're going slower in your progression, you feel yourself kind of bumping up against debris of other ships that seem to just be residing within these waves. And it's slow going, but specifically by just avoiding hazards until eventually maybe about you guys have been close enough that it would be maybe about a 20-minute row, 30-minute row to actually get out onto the beachhead. And when you do, arriving onto this island, you can see that there is just it looks like maybe a half mile of just dunes. Specifically, just sand dunes. And then past that point, you can see that then it kind of turns to more of an oceanic grass. And then it eventually turns into what looks to be kind of just like grass and weeds that have been left untamed. And make perception checks as you all kind of arrive on this island. It's later on in the evening now, not fully night, but it's still getting closer towards the end of midday.
That's a natural 20.
Oh, shit.
21.
Okay. So, Albus, you don't notice this necessarily. You're too busy kind of looking around, seeing everything, just kind of taking it all in. But Hish Jill and Ulman, looking past these sand dunes, you can see what almost looks to be the remains of a structure. Like there once was a building past these sand dunes on the island proper, but you see more of it as partial walls kind of jutting up. It doesn't look like a full building. It looks like it either collapsed or broke down at some point. Whether from natural means or from humanoid interference, you aren't necessarily sure.
Albus, you think that maybe this is what you're looking for? And she'll point it out to Albus.
Maybe. It's a headache.
It seems to have lessened in its intensity, but there is still just this focal point that seems to be directing towards where that location is.
Yeah, I'll keep walking to it.
Okay, sounds good. So, as you are walking forward, as you are passing by these sand dunes, you see that they, some of them begin to shift. And you see sand kind of littering off to the side, and you see that there's some crustaceans and sea life that seem to be moving away as well. But then you see that there is a quick movement that seems to come out of these sand dunes, as what you had thought was a small set of rather dull-looking rocks seem to come to life and continue out of the sand, as a skeletal hand actually seems to claw its way out of the sand, followed by another hand that begins to pull its way. And the sand dunes around you all begin to kind of shift, as well as what looks to be a small cluster of these skeletons are actually kind of clambering out of the sand, each of them wearing these very piratey regalia, It seems like these might just be the lost souls of the sailors that had died around this location.
We haven't had a long rest, have we?
Yes, you have. It has been several days.
Oh.
Yeah, you guys are on day 2 of sailing. You've totally had a long rest.
I love it.
I'm glad. That's some good time.
Love that for me, being prepared.
All right. So, this is... I'm going to need everybody to roll for initiative.
5.
Oh no.
God damn it. Okay. Oh, I thought the book almost was going to just completely jump off from where it was. Where did my pen go? I'm so bad at this. It's because I'm sweaty. All right. So
It's almost as if a natural 20 derailed the entire session.
I know. What? No, it'll be fine.
And I oop.
Okay.
And ooh,
So,
what's this?
Albus, what'd you get?
5.
Okay, Jill, what'd you get?
A 16.
Ulman.
27.
Sir.
Sir?
I'm gonna need you to not.
You're not allowed to go that fast.
Wee woo, that's about the speed limit.
Okay, sounds good. So,
If you catch me.
Ulman, you watch as amongst these dunes, approximately 7 skeletons all begin to rise out from these dunes and then begin shambling their way towards you. You are going to be acting first. What would you like to do?
He plants both of his feet, and Ham responds by holding up his hand and shouting, "Pew pew!" as another bolt forms and shoots at the head of one of the skeletons.
Okay, sounds good. Make an attack.
23?
Okay, so a 23 totally hits. Roll for damage. These are skeletons.
4.
Okay. So, sounds good. It takes its damage. Doesn't look particularly pleased. Like, you headshot it, but it just kind of spins on its spine a little bit, and then you see the head is facing backwards. The skeleton brings up its hands, twists the head back so that way it's facing towards you, and then continues its shamble. Next up are going to be 4 of these nasty boys, who are all going to very quickly shamble up towards, it was, I'm guessing, Albus and Jill in front, and then Ulman in back. What was the marching order?
Albus was probably in front.
Okay. So Albus in front, next would be Ulman because hired muscle, and then Jill is just... This is the weirdest along the ride I've ever been a part of, but you're hanging out with the monster boys. It kind of makes sense. So, 2 are going to go for Albus, 2 are going to go for Ulman. Albus, does a 12 hit you?
No.
Okay. Second one, an 8 does not hit you either. Ulman, a 7 doesn't hit you. And a 12 doesn't hit you. So these skeletons just kind of come up and then give you very light slap hands. It's more just unsettling that they're touching you. They aren't really doing any damage whatsoever. Next up is going to be Jill.
She's gonna be like, "Oh, fantastic. This is just what I needed today. Step aside, boys." And she'll kind of push the 2 out of the way and extending her hand, which is now glowing. She's going to turn those undead.
Turn undead. Okay. And what's the save that these boys need?
That is a good question. I think it's my spell save. Yes, it is. That's a 15.
Okay. So... Because how large is the turn undead radius?
That's another good question that I will have an answer for. It is not immediately telling me. Let me click further.
Drill down.
Where is it at? It says... Okay. No, I can't immediately find it.
Okay. We will do
help.
a quick search. Boop. So, turn on fed that can hear you within 30 feet of you must make a wisdom save.
Oh.
See you over here. No problem. So, yeah, if you had popped out, you would have been within 30 feet of all of these skelly men's. And you see that 6 out of these 7 look like they are beginning to shake very afeardly. One of them apparently just has an undying confidence, but the others seem very startled.
Okay, that's
Because then, do they have to use their reaction to immediately turn and run away?
They have to... turn creature must... Okay, it's turned for 1 minute, or until it takes damage. A turn creature must spend its turns trying to move as far away from you as it can. So it's turns.
So it's on its turn. Got it.
Yeah, and it can't willingly move to a space within 30 feet of you. Can't take reactions. For its action, it can only use the dash action.
Sure. All right, so yes. Next up are 3 of the afraid creatures that were towards the back. They hadn't even gotten to you guys yet, so they are just going to turn and start running. Then next up is Albus.
The skeleton with the undeath wish, I would like to make a strength saving throw.
Okay.
Is it within 15 feet of me? Sorry.
Yes. This is one of the ones that came up and had attacked Ulman.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I'm...
Got a 13.
For my bonus action, Ulman, take a point of inspiration.
Awesome. All right, next up, Ulman.
I've got a skeleton to dismember. Inspiredly.
You got a galaxy brain to do it with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad it did. Does 15 hit?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Cool.
I wonder what he got.
It's 15 damage.
Okay. Yeah, so this skeleton with the undeath wish, he got his wish, man. He got to re-die. He's so happy about the events that transpired today. But yeah, so he gets blasted. Next up are the remainder of these scaredy skellies, and they all just begin scattering as well, not seeming to want to deal with you, and they are just going to continue to use their actions to just run very far.
Well,
and
hopefully you fellows don't feel like chasing them.
And as they continue to run, you see that they are running through other sand dunes, and it seems like they are just going through them rather than trying to climb over. And as they pass by these other dunes, you see as more of these white skeletal hands begin to pull themselves out of the dunes and shake themselves up. And as you are watching, as all of these skeletons had ran off, that there are well over what look to be 20 skeletons on this beach. What would you guys like to do? And you see that they are all in the process of rising up.
Can we dash toward the structure?
You certainly can.
Cool. That's what I would like to do.
All right. Well then, I follow.
Okay. And
Jill's just gonna be like, run after them.
Okay, so it is, in terms of distance, you are looking at 1,800 feet to get from the beachhead just to past the dunes. So, Albus, I am going to need you to make a Constitution save, and I'm going to need everybody else to make Constitution saves as well, as you guys are trudging through the dunes, trying to make sure that you don't fall behind. You got a natural 1? Oh.
It was 2.
Oh, no. Okay.
-1.
So a modified 1.
Dirty 20.
Okay.
11.
All right. So Jill, you out of all of your companions are the most well adjusted to being able to run on the sand. And so you know exactly how to run, and as you're going, you see that Albus, on his first initial step forward, seems to like slip on his footing, and he's just having a very difficult time. He's already just continuously drenched with seawater, and he just seems to be having a very difficult slog trying to get through it. Ulman, you are trying to make sure that Albus is coming along with you, but Jill, you are watching as all of these skeletons, as they continue to rise, are just making their ways up, and then are just gradually swarming towards the lot of you.
Can I cast fog cloud to make it a little harder for them to see us?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think she's going to just like wave her hand out, and white, gray, foggy smoke starts to fill the area.
Okay. So as this light gray fog begins to fill the area, and you start hearing the sounds of these skeletons, these unearthly, undeathly sounds, just somehow being manifested. There is just a swath of them. And you see that some of them are shambling forward and others are shambling as well, and then they begin to fall. Albus and Ulman, I would like for the both of you to make another Constitution save to kind of get your feet back up and continue running.
11.
21.
Okay. Ulman, you have no issue with this. Albus, it's a little slow going, but you seem to have found your footing on the sand once again. And as the three of you begin running, you're about halfway through the dunes now. And you start seeing that in front of you, that there are dark shapes that seem to be outlined in almost like a wall. And then you see that these forms that are humanoid in size and stature, that are these skeletal remains, just begin to kind of shudder. And then one by one, they begin to fall down onto the ground in front of you. But as you look at them, they begin to shake as well. And you see that they begin to rattle and move, and it looks like these remains are beginning to cluster. And as what looks to be maybe about 7 or 8 of these skeletons then come together, they begin to form this very large writhing mass. You see another group come together and form a similar sized mass, and then another one again. And then from behind you, where you had ran away and tried to scare away all of these other skeletons, you feel the ground shift beneath you, And looking back, you can see that there is what looks to be a huge-sized skeleton that is lumbering towards you. And as it walks, you can see that there are small bones that seem to be falling from its appendages, as if these skeletons had banded together to form this much larger, massive form. Using the same initiative count as before, I'm going to roll in your new friends. So... that's good. All right, so Ulman, you are going to have your first pick as these large skeletal forms begin to make their way towards you.
And we're kind of surrounded on both sides with no way to run?
It would appear so.
I look over to Albus and I'm like, which way are we pressing?
Forward.
All right. And I start moving towards the first one that I can that I think we can, like, break through the line with.
Okay. Sounds good. So you know that the clustered swarms are in front of you. There's the large lumbering creature to the back that is making its way. So you feel like the best / easiest way that you will have of breaking through this line is going to be running forward.
Yeah.
Just going forward where Albus points and just trying to smash your way through the swarms.
I will try that.
Do it.
What do I need to roll?
Okay, you're going to need to make an attack roll if you would like to attack it. And if you are, how so?
I think I make a light hammer.
Okay.
Make my baseball bat. And I just, like, start trying to break my way through, shatter as many bones as possible.
Okay, make an attack roll. That is just what you needed. Roll for damage. Let's see it, folks.
11.
Okay. So as your baseball bat connects to it, it seems like these frail bones are not meant to withstand the force behind this baseball bat, as your attack actually deals double what you were expecting it to, as quite a sizable chunk of this swarm seems to scatter and fall off. It's like Saruman at the beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring, where you're just blasting through these smaller boys. Or Sauron, not Saruman. My bad. My bad. But yes, you have done it. What would you like to do for your bonus action?
I think I hold there.
Okay. Sounds good. Next up, Albus and Jill, as you guys are in the back, you feel the ground shake from behind you as this large undead comes lumbering forward. And it is going to rear up with this large skeletal claw and try and slash out towards you, Jill. It seems, as you're kind of looking at it, that the skeleton that had like righted its head is currently at the head of this large juggernaut creature. And so it is going to try and make its attack towards you. And that is a 17 to hit.
Just misses.
Okay. Second attack. That is going to be a 15. So less than the first. Its two claw attacks rake down towards you, and you just shield, like... This guy isn't even really a threat. I mean, he's an undead. You're a cleric. This is a tale as old as time. So it is unable to do what it sought to do. Jill, it is your turn.
Albus, I strongly advise we turn back.
They're all that way.
The Juggernaut is coming from behind you. The swarms are in front.
Very well. Yeah, she's gonna pull out the Warhammer and, I guess, pull an Ulman in this case and smash and dash.
Okay.
So, let me see. Warhammer. Okay. That's a 7.
Okay, 7 does not hit this guy. No.
Oh, don't like that for me. Is there anything I can do on a bonus action? Nope, that's gonna be my turn.
Okay, sounds good. So then next up, 2 of these swarms that are towards the front where Ulman had rushed up are going to then try and just shamble strike towards you, Ulman, as it seems like one of them actually kind of coils up and the sharpened bones that are inside of it just sort of jut out, and it seems to try and do a more cylindrical slash towards you, just using its body as its force.
Yeah.
Does a 16 hit you?
Negatory Ghost Rider.
Okay. And then the second one is going to try and make a slash out at you as well for less than 16. So it is unable to do its thing. Albus, what would you like to do?
Run toward the headache.
Okay. So would you like to use a dash action?
Yes, unless there's something very large and menacing directly in his path.
You can avoid
Or
them.
in the path of its friends.
In the path of your friends, Ulman is currently has 2 of these swarms on him, and a third one that is yet to go is staggering menacingly towards your group, and Jill has this Juggernaut directly behind this undead that seems to, this singular looking undead that is made of the many small ones versus these swarms that are just sort of like sentient piles of bones.
Okay, can I have the Juggernaut make a wisdom save?
Yes, you can.
I'm casting a 2nd level Dissonant Whispers.
He got an 18.
He'll still take damage.
Okay.
He'll take 9 points of psychic damage. I'm too close to have you ruin this now.
Okay. Sounds good. Next up is Albus. Or no, that was your turn.
That was me.
Yep, doing that.
Can Jill get a d6?
Nice. All right. And last but not least is this third swarm that is going to sidle up towards our dear friend Ulman, and it is going to try and also use a slash attack. With a 13, that's not going to happen. So all 3 of these have like tried to like shamble strike you, but you are just, they're gross. You don't want to touch it. It's a bad time. Ulman, it is your go.
So the one I smashed is directly in front of me still. I assume the other 2 are kind of to either side of me.
Yes. So it's like you have a there is like a small crown of these around you. There's one directly in front and then and then kind of like coned, I would say.
Okay. I think I'm gonna disengage as my bonus action to just move out from them, and then kind of get diagonal of one to the right of me so that the other two are a little bit farther away and smack at it.
Okay, make an attack roll.
Nine will not hit.
No, it will not. All right, so at the start of the Juggernaut's turn, as Albus, you had said, as you had dealt this psychic damage, you had seen it kind of like bring hands up towards its head cluster, and as it does, it starts clawing away, trying to address the pain in whatever it determines to be the central skull. And as it does, you see that bits and pieces of it are beginning to fall apart, as it looks like it actually deals itself a little bit of damage in this moment. But seeming to kind of regain its sensibilities, it is going to then lean up and try and... it actually doesn't try and strike out towards you, Jill. Instead, you see that it curls its body over you, and you watch as it seems to fall completely apart. It's almost like its body just collapses on top of you. I'm going to need you to make a dexterity save as this wave of bones comes smashing into you.
Oh, yikes. Okay. That is going to be 13.
Okay. That is a failure.
Got an inspiration?
I do. 16.
Okay, that is a success. So, you are not knocked prone, and you are only going to be taking half of this. So, it's all good. And that is for taking 7 points of bludgeoning damage.
Okay.
And you watch as after it kind of collapses down onto the ground, that the bones begin to shake and then reform back into this large juggernaut-sized creature that you have been fighting previously. Next up, Jill. This bone man just collapsed on you.
This bone man did just collapse on me. I don't like that. I don't like the bone man collapsed on me, but I'm gonna keep pressing forward, I guess.
Okay, so are you going to disengage and run, or are you going to provoke?
We'll provoke. We'll see what happens.
Okay. That is a 16.
Doesn't hit.
Okay.
And I will take my warhammer and just smash through whatever is in my way as I'm trying to run forward.
Okay. So yeah, you're just more flavor-wise is kind of batting these skellies out as you're continuing on. But yes, you are able to then run around. You see kind of like towards the back of Ulman, seeing as how he's positioned these other creatures in more of a line. Next up is going to be the two that are in the back. Because Ulman, you have those three looking in front of you, and one of those two is actually going to break off and begin to shamble more towards Albus, as he had kind of separated himself off as well to try and run around these creatures. So, does a 16 hit?
Yes.
Okay. So, this is this guy, so you are going to be taking... That is a total of 15 points of slashing damage.
Albus is down.
Okay. Next up is the second cluster that's close to you, Ulman, and it kind of wriggles off to the side, and it is going to try and strike out against you as well. That is a natural 20, Ulman. For a total of... Oh, that's not good.
I'm not using Unsettling Visage on these guys because I can't think of a way to unsettle.
It's for a total of 27 points of slashing.
Ouch.
Still good?
Oh yeah, I've got 8 HP.
That's good. It's good to know. Next up, Albus, I would like for you to make a death saving throw. That is a fail. With a 5. Next up is this third swarm that is going to try and slashy out towards you, Ulman. And it is going to get a 17 to hit.
Does not hit.
Okay. So yeah, it goes to try and slice out towards you. Ulman, it is your turn. You have just watched as this spinning column of bone shards has made its way over to Albus, and you see that in a singular motion, it has brought him down onto the sand.
Can I have rebuked the one that stabbed me?
I would say that you would need to call out the rebuke as it happens.
I am still forgetting that I have, like, on damage actions sometimes. It's alright. I will disengage and dash over to where Albus has fallen and see if I can, like, grab and pull his body away.
Okay, yeah, I'd say make a athletics check.
15.
Yeah, you can easily pick Albus up and then begin moving away. As you move away, this creature is going to try and get an attack of opportunity against you if you continue to pull him away versus just picking him up, staying where you're at. So that is going to be a 9 to hit. I don't believe that hits you. So yeah, you managed to get a little bit further up as well. Jill, this large lumbering form that was behind you continues to shamble forward. It seems like it is having a difficult time actually holding itself together as more of these bony parts continue to fall off. And it is going to attempt to make a attack against you with its claws. No laws when you're using claws. Does a 22 hit?
It does.
Okay.
I'm gonna get this bitch back in a second, but I'll let you roll your damage first.
Okay, that is going to be for 11 points of slashing damage.
Ouch, that hurts. I'm gonna use Wrath of the Storm.
Okay.
So yeah, this old Boney Jones hits me with his big old claws, and Jill will, like, grit her teeth, and, like, as she, like, almost, like, knocks it back, thunder, like, rings out. Yeah, it's gonna need to make a dex saving throw.
Okay. That's a natural 1.
Okay, so it's gonna take 2d8 thunder damage.
That's pretty good.
11 points of damage.
Okay. Sounds good. It does not seem to like that at all. As you hit it back with this thunder damage, you actually see bones from it just kind of cartoonishly flying off in the back, almost as if the bones are a way to judge how healthy this thing looks. And then it is going to try and swing at you a second time with a 16.
Doesn't hit.
Okie dokie. Sounds good. So next up is the two swarms that are actually closest to you now, Jill. And they begin kind of shambling up towards you in an attempt to then catch you in their spinny bone blades. One of them is going to get a 22 to hit.
Yep, that hits.
Okay, and that is a total of 9 points of slashing damage.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one is going to try and hit you, but that is an 8. Does not look like it is actually capable of hitting you in this time. But you currently have 3 of these large skelly men on you. Next up is Albus. I need you to make another saving throw for me. 6? Okay. Mark another failure on your character sheet. So, then next up is the bone swarm that is near you, Ulman. And it is going to then kind of shamble up towards you. And it is going to try and blade out as well. Does a 16 hit?
Negatory.
Okay. So it goes to try and slash out towards you, but it seems incapable of doing so as well. Ulman, what would you like to do?
I would like to grab the potion of healing out of my bag and shove it in Albus's mouth after removing the cork.
No, just shove the whole thing.
Just
glass and all. Okay, so Albus, would you like to roll to see how much you get healed for?
Thank you, dice bottles. I rolled ones, but I'm not dying. No.
That's a plus.
So that's 4.
Okay. Sounds good. So you heal for 4 points as Ulman heals you. Next up.
Hey, look, I'm a third of the way up.
Next up is another one of this is the juggernaut-sized creature that is still on you, Jill. And it is going to try and swing down on you with its claws. With the claw! So that is a 16 to hit. That doesn't work. And that is a 22 to hit.
That it's...
Okay. So that is going to be for a total of 7 points of slashing damage.
Bye, y'all.
All right. So Jill is down. Next up are the skeletal creatures. And they seem to, while they are near you, you see one of them just kind of beginning to shift and shimmy and begins just rotating and actually comes down onto you, Jill. It is going to try and make an attack against your body as it is a spooky, scary skelly and it wants life, which you have. And it hits you for 2 failed death saves. Okay. And then the second skelly that is also on you is going to try and come down with its skelly blades to mash against you. And that is a 23 to hit as well. So, Ulman,
Bye, y'all.
you watch as these swarms that you had ditched to run off and save Albus with then turn on Jill, and the combined might of these mini skeletons seem to be doing Jill in at this point. It does not look good. Next up is the one that is still on you and Albus. And it is going to try and slice out towards you, Ulman. That is a natural 20.
I can't block that by having high enough AC?
No. Natural
Okay.
20 is a auto-confirm.
Okay.
So that is for the swarm.
Oh, I am so sorry.
That is a total of 28 points of slashing damage.
I am dead.
Okay.
Wait, how are you dead?
Because I go to -20, which is
Your
6
max
above my con score.
your max is 35.
That's
It's
not
if you
how
go above
insta-death works in 5e.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you are down. You are currently down, but Albus, you have just watched Jill go down, swarmed by skeletons. You have just watched Ulman go down, also swarmed by skellies. What would you like to do?
Do I know that Jill's dead?
You have seen a lot of blood leave a lot of people, and Jill definitely has more blood on the outside than a living person should have. You can make a medicine check if you would like to see about a final call.
13.
She dead.
Bonus action. Healing word 2nd level on Ulman. You heal 10 points.
Okay.
For my action, I just want to, I guess, frostbite one of them, just out into the ether.
Okay.
I need a con save.
That is a 15.
And just run.
Okay. Sounds good. So Albus is running. Ulman, what are you doing? As you have popped back at 10 after getting the shit stabbed out of you. And it looks like the other forms that slayed Jill are currently making their way towards you as well.
Do I think I can recover the body?
You think that you would be able to rush around the enemies, grab Jill, but then comes the matter of lifting Jill, as she has a shield and gear and a pack, and you are not exactly the strongest.
What kind of armor is Jill wearing?
He wears light armor or studded leather.
Trying to think. I know where the like connectors on those are. Can I cut Jill out?
Sir!
You
This is
can
a Wendy's.
buy new armor.
I'm dead! I can't buy shit!
No one's completely dead. You're just mostly dead.
Okay.
Actually, on the D&D Beyond overlay.
It says dead!
Look, they're only completely dead if you abandon the body.
So, you could make a... God, what would this be? Make a history check. Or make a survival check, depending on whichever's higher.
18?
History or survival?
History.
Okay. So, yeah, you have a pretty good feeling and idea that you would be able to quickly cut Jill out of the armor. The only problem is then getting all of it off of Jill. Like, cutting 6 seconds, fine. Stripping in 6 seconds, as well as cutting, not particularly fine. But you actually get a feeling from Ham that says that they know where they can keep Jill safe.
Do it.
So you
I mean,
rush
I'm
over.
dead.
Jill up.
So you rush over, and Albus, you watch as Ulman looks like he's belly flopping onto Jill as his body kind of spreads out and wraps over her And then you just watch as that slime kind of covers Jill entirely. Ulman then stands up and then just begins booking it towards you. As it seems like he's having a little difficulty holding his form together, and through mild translucent bits, you can see that Jill is just inside where his arms and his legs are, just sort of moving with him.
Weekend at Jilfa'en's. Anyway, we're running.
Okay. So as you continue to run, it looks like these creatures are incapable of following you as you continue to run. Make Constitution saves as you continue to go, though.
18.
Also 18.
Okay. Yeah. So with the two 18s, you guys are able to eventually get past the barrier of the dunes, kind of making it into this seagrass area. And looking back, you can see that these skeletons, while wanting to pursue you more, just stop after a point and then kind of just turn and then recede back towards where they were. They don't actually seem to want to go past the barrier of these dunes following you. And Albus, you look over and you see Ulman's form shudders for a little bit, and there is a grossly satisfying splort noise as you watch the body of Jill just kind of shoot down onto the ground between the two of you. And that is where we are going to go into our break for the evening. So I would like to say thank you to everybody who has decided to stick with us so far as we make our way through the absolutely terrifying Skeleton Beach. We are going to try and be back in 5 to 10 minutes, so don't go no place unless it is to find a food, or to grab a food, grab a drink, grab a friend, possibly go to bit.ly, pick yourself up something nice, or consider leaving a review. Let us know how we're doing. Do you think that the skeletons would have attacked Jill unconscious, or should they have been like, meh, close enough, and then wandered off? Let me know in the comments how you feel about that whole thing, and I will address them accordingly. But with that, we are going to try and be back in 5 to 10 minutes, so don't go no place, and we'll see you guys soon. All right, everybody. Bye-bye! Hello, everybody. And first off, I would like to say I'm sorry, Dingo, if you're listening to this / watching it. We killed Jill. But you guys are now outside of the scary, spooky dunes. You have reached a lull point with Jill's body laying between both Albus and Ulman, covered in some slime, as Ham had figured that the only safe place it could possibly stow Jill to make a speedy getaway still was inside of Ulman. And off in the distance, probably at this point, still several hundred feet away, you see that there is the remains of what looks to be a building.
Is that where the headache's pointing?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Pick up Jill and... I don't know if I'm strong enough to pick up Jill.
No. Like, maybe without anything on Jill, you could struggle for it. You might be able to do it. Thank you, Styx Laura, for the follow.
I think I, with a really grim look on my face, get back to, cutting off the armor and removing it, and, lightening them up for easier carrying.
Okay. Is Jill the kind of lady who wears the underoos underneath the leathers, or, is it just how it is?
I'm not naked.
Just wanted to establish. But yes, you managed to do so. Cutting Jill out of these waterlogged leathers.
I looked up at you. So, is this the place?
Albus is like, he looks like beyond like frustrated and distraught. But there's also like a determination, and he just nods and keeps walking forward.
Ulman takes a look around and then shoulders Jill's body and follows after.
Okay. Sounds good. So you guys continue on towards this structure. And as you do, you see that there is a figure that actually comes out to meet you. And as you show up, this large human figure that seems to have a mace over his shoulder says, "All right, pirates, I'll not have you here. Get back!" And he seems to kind of be taking more of an aggressive saunter towards you.
We're not pirates.
Then what are you doing with a ship like that? And he points out to your guys' ship that's just resting on the outskirts.
Contract work. Acquisitions Incorporated.
When you say that, he spits on the ground.
We're not pirates. Who are you?
And as he is about to speak up, you hear a voice actually coming from inside of the structure, and you see that it is a human. And this human has their head shaved as they are walking out, and they say, Augment, settle down, settle. Don't you see that these people are injured? And Augment, or the human who has been identified as Augment, looks back, and he says, Ozymandias, look at them. Look at them. Anyone? Contract workers? Don't think so. And Ozymandias ruffles squeezes the bridge of his nose, and then, get back inside, Augment. These people are injured. Hello, as my associate has identified, I am Ozymandias. What can I do to help you travelers? We don't get many visitors.
Is his pain pointing at this person, or is it still?
It seems past it, more towards the structure. But in the weirdest sense, now that you've actually gotten close to it, rather than being straight, it seems to have kind of taken place in lower, almost like it's pointing down.
We've suffered a casualty against the undead here.
Yes, the island does have some ill-fitted defenses. I'm sorry to hear of your friend. You may come in and rest, so should you so choose. On several conditions, of course. You will not harm us. And that you will leave us in peace. And should pirates attack, you will defend us.
We can't even defend ourselves.
Perhaps what you seek is a higher calling. Come, this way. This way. And he motions the two of you to come into this kind of burnt out structure. And as you look at it, it does look burnt out. And in also looks like it has possibly been under siege, based off of what Ogmund has said, expecting you all to be pirates. You're assuming pirates did something relating to this. And as you end up entering in to this structure, it is like an underlayer to the actual what you might sense is almost an abbey that has kind of been laid out here. You guys enter into a cellar that has kind of been cleared out, almost like there is a kind of like a bottom layer to this location. And as you enter, it says, or not it, but the book then calls for it. All that remains of the abbey is a great square of stones filled with burned and blackened rubble. As you approach the sooty stones, it is obvious someone has been sorting through the debris. Assorted oddments are piled inside the scorched square of the foundation stones. Ruined cooking utensils, crushed pots, platters, plates, porcelain, and pottery are heaped in another. A great deal of wood has been sorted into one large mound of badly burned scraps. In the center of the ruins is an opening, and as you move nearer, you see a stone staircase leading down into the darkness. Now, you said that you were contract workers. Does that mean that is not your ship?
That is our ship. If you've seen it before under other management, it's a recent acquisition. Incorporated.
We've seen many ships pass by our waters, as you might have been aware from, well, the sheer debris. The number of skeletons often gives it away, to be quite fair. I do have a request. After you take asylum here, would you possibly be willing to take us off of this island? Or some of us?
How many of you?
Well, there are 11 of us in total. We wouldn't want to send all of them, just a few, to let our brothers on the mainland know that we're still alive, and that we need resources to rebuild the abbey.
Can you make it through the undead?
Yes, actually. And he reaches around his neck and pulls out a golden medallion. Wearing one of these, they won't bother you.
He just takes the longest inhale.
Now, I see that your friend, you said that they died?
Yes.
Tragic, that. Should you be so inclined, perhaps we could work out a deal of sorts. We could put your friend back, as it were, and you would sail us to shore.
Ulman has been, like, biting his lip this whole time, and, like, his seeming to be on, like, the verge of tears, like, almost since they arrived at town. And he barks out kind of quickly, I will take whatever debt is necessary.
And there is a slow head turn from Osmandius. Are you looking... You said anything?
If you want off the island, we can provide that service.
If we're What are your terms?
For what aspect of the trade? The exchange?
You can restore our associate.
Oh, we can't. But we know some who will. Higher powers. All that. We are merely speakers.
Of whom?
The Endless Lord. Skovga. Make a history check. Or religion, depending on what you feel would be how you might find about this Skovga.
Lord mongering doesn't help with this.
No, not currently.
You said history or religion?
Yes.
21.
On which?
History.
Okay. You aren't actually familiar with this name or this title.
Ooh.
Skovka. And he turns towards Ulman. You said that you would be willing to do anything.
My companions have informed me that sometimes my lack of definition in my words gets me in trouble. I would like to retract anything to many things within reason. And I will consider other things.
Oh.
I just want to like pop open the whisper jar and start recording the rest of this conversation.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, you can totally download it as an MP3 later. As you are talking, he says, it is within reason to occasionally find oneself without reason. And that is what Skofka believes. Now, come this way. Let Osmandius show you that death is but a temporary setback. Bayleaf here has died 3 times, 4 times. His belief brings him back, is what it does. This way. And he continues on, and eventually...
Can I insight check?
You can totally insight check him.
I want to get a read on this boy.
Yeah, you can insight check him as well.
I insight him for 8.
An 8?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I get a 17, meeting the requirement for my obviate.
Okay, so with your obviators roll, what 3 things would you like to know about Osmandius?
I can't ask about things he's told me, right? I can't be like, who is this god he worships?
It's only about him.
What does he consider reasonable? When it comes to this sort of price, if you want something a little more specific.
His definition of reasonable is whatever is equivocal. You are asking to bring back a life, and that typically has a very weighted price. He is willing to do this for you, and in this reasonable sense, whether it is a life of servitude or a life of some other means, it seems more up his alley.
All right.
Second question.
danger to us where he's leading us? Is that something I can ask? Like,
is there any danger, or does he feel it is dangerous?
Does he feel it is dangerous?
He does not feel it is dangerous.
Okay. I don't really think I have a third question for him at this moment. So,
his favorite salty food is seagrass pies. His favorite umami food is, well...
I only get 3, so we're out here.
Okay.
Just get that salty.
Yep. So, as he leads you deeper in, he says... we built this place as out of reverence. You see, some of us monks were on a journey. Some believed in a goddess of waves, others believed in, the powers of nature as they were, others simply on a mean to find themselves. But it would appear something found them instead. And as he's walking, you realize that this corridor that you've been walking down has a very gentle left-hand curve to it. And even though it feels like you've been walking straight, you feel you have actually just been going in this very large curve. And as you continue down this corridor, he says, what we have here is our first recorded contact with Skofka. And he motions towards a wall. And very pictograph-esque, you can see that there are some humanoid shapes that are kind of drawn on this wall. And then across from it, you see that there is a large ovoid shape that has 3 dots in a vertical line, as well as a much larger dot on the bottom that seems to be filled with triangles.
A mouth?
You could say it is. It looks like a mouth, yes.
What the mouth doing?
Right now, it is strictly open, and you can see that there are lines that don't seem to follow any kind of logic that are coming off of the back. It seems whereas these humanoid figures very much have arms and legs, these just seem like diagonal line, straight dash, diagonal line, straight dash, downward diagonal line, straight dash, farther downward diagonal line, straight dash. Almost in the same way that you would see as like wings from a bird or fins of a fish, but more at like a lower standpoint.
What was their name again?
Skofka.
How long ago was that?
Oh, this was over a millennia ago, I would suppose. Been here for quite some time. Now, follow me. And he continues down this corridor. And as he does, you can hear the sound of rushing water, but you're not exactly able to place where it is until eventually along this corridor you see that there is a break in the left-hand wall that is a slat. And the slat extends down probably about 80 feet of this hallway, and as you look through it, you can see that it is a chamber. It looks like there is some sort of cavern that is beneath this abbey, and you can hear the sound of rushing seawater, and as you do, you can see that there is actually a jutting location in this wall, in this internalized cave wall that is just open, spilling seawater down into a basin below. And as he continues down, you see that there is on display as well. This was the first of his aquatic allies. And you see, Albus, that there is what looks to be a chul on display, almost like it has been taxidermied up to kind of show its claws above its tendrils coming down, and it is just seemingly on display. There have been more like this one, much smaller, mind you. Some of the first monks gladly gave their life to help the creation of such beasts. There are many ways which the Endless Lord can provide to the lesser creatures. There is this outcome, and after about a 5-minute walk forward, there is another station with more of these art and carvings on the wall, and you see that there is a humanoid figure that then seems to have its legs come together and then kind of spread out, and then the next picture of it, you see that there are 4 legs actually coming from the bottom. Then there are those who receive Skofka's blessing directly. As tantalizing as it is incredibly ill-advised. Osmandius turns towards you, Ulman, and you, Albus. Our Lord is ancient, and his powers are vast. Sadly, he is no longer with us. We are unsure as to where he is gone, but the powers that he left behind are still alive and vibrant as ever. Simply ask for the blessing. Blessing of the spiral.
Roll credits.
It's too early for that sort of thing.
Neris knows it's gonna bleed.
It is at that moment Hish, seeing Neris's nosebleed. Oh god, they broke the 4th wall. Just rushes onto a dinghy and is like somewhere off camera. Hish is getting ready to eventually meet you all.
Now, with Albus's premonitions, would he be led in any particular, like, is this like something he should do, or should it be like against this?
Make an insight check.
14.
Okay. Something seems off about this. Something does not set right with you. Like during your time in the village that you came from, you never remembered calling them blessings specifically. You remember that you would call them boons or gifts, but to call something a blessing, to feign the powers of a thing that you hate so much, that seems ridiculous. And yet here, this figure is asking about receiving a blessing of a spiral.
Something's wrong. This is wrong.
Oh, I've heard that before. Wait until we bring your friend back. Then you can determine what's wrong and what's right. And I would be damned if we didn't see eye to eye on this at the end of all of it. There's something concerning you. I don't believe I ever actually asked for your names.
Albus.
Ulman.
And your friend? Motions towards Jill.
Jill.
I was going to say I'd rather let her tell it herself.
Oh, we need to know the name before we begin the ceremony.
I'm not still 100% convinced I want the ceremony.
I thought you said that you would be willing as long as it was reasonable.
I said I will need more detail. I am coming with...
Our friend was very concerned about details.
I will not put anyone in a contract without their approval.
It would be wrong to her memory if we weren't absolutely sure of every detail and got it in writing.
I've met one god before. They can be tricky like that.
Most of them are.
The writing, you say? Well, the writing's been on the walls this entire trip. Have you not seen what his gifts can give? Could make you greater than you are. And this was when he was in his true power. Now it is lessened. It's one of the reasons we need to go back. Is to find our other faithful and gather the coin necessary to rebuild the abbey in his honor. There are things that lay below as well. The crypts below. We do not have control over the heightened crustaceans as we once did. They have made residence there. So we cannot willingly go and collect our funds, and even if we did, we'd have no one to buy from. Not out here. We need a trip home. I have no intention of steering you wrong.
Indoor question.
Yes.
Has Albus interacted with the tool before?
You have interacted with the base jewel in Saltmarsh. Make a d20 roll for me.
17.
Okay, yeah, and in your home village as well, jewels would have spawned.
Would he have been able to communicate telepathically with them?
Yes.
Were they respondent? Like, would they...
Yes.
Okay.
They seemed to be entirely keyed in to your existence. Just a subservient race that finally finds its master that it has been longing for.
Does he feel like he would be able to do this with with tools that spawn from another aboleth?
Make a Arcana check or a Nature check.
14.
You feel like you would be able to give it an old college try, and you feel like you would have a good success rate.
Where is this?
Oh, it's quite above now. These tunnels stretch far below the abbey surface. We're 200 or so feet below. Are you interested in the
I am.
tunnels? Oh. Why is that, Brother Albus? Do you share our vision? And he just gives you a very gentle smile.
I am very familiar with the powers that you are speaking of, although I haven't heard quite the same connotations to them.
A brother of the faith. How excellent indeed.
Faith is not the word I would give to that.
And how would you describe it? We believe, do we not? We have devotion. We have our own sense of dogma. Is that not faith?
What do you want?
Oh, it's not what I want at all. It's what the Endless Lord wants.
And did you give them that title?
Did we give him that title? Yes. From the stories that they told, they were around since the beginning of, well, everything. To exist for such a long time, and to continue existing until the end of all things. Is that not endless?
It is.
And so it shall be. Now come. Come. There's not much longer now.
Until what?
Until the bottom. You didn't think that these tunnels just continued on forever, did you?
You seem to be very fond of things that are endless.
Only the metaphysical, Brother Albus. This mortal coil bears me not. And he continues onward. And after about 10 more minutes of walking and seeing iconography, which Albus, you're starting to get familiar with, at a certain point, you see that there is the carving in the walls of what looked to be, as you would know it, an aboleth. But there are dozens, if not closer to hundreds, of these figures that are all in these deep reddish robes that are all in front of this creature. And as the wall carving, as this I think it's called a fresco is when you carve it into the wall. As this fresco continues, you see that this aboleth devours and continues to devour these figures. And as they do, it creates a spiral-like pattern on the wall as you watch as these figures are just kind of falling then into this gaping maw of the aboleth. And as you pass by a certain point, there is a sound like metal on metal that sort of shifts and jingles. And as you look forward, you can see that this room that opens up has chains that are hanging from the ceiling in various different positions. And as you look over at the aboleth one last time in this fresco, you see that it has swam around and around, and there are depictions of it swimming as it continues on into this giant spiral. And as it gets closer to the center, you can see that the color shifts on this basaltic rock, this deep bluish gray that then shifts to being a reddish color towards the center. And as you turn and look into this cavern, you can see that, again, there are chains that are hanging from the ceiling on the ground. It seems like there are the second half of these chains that are laying on the ground, but each one, rather than falling down and then kind of coiling out, it seems like they have all almost fallen in this same kind of spiral-like motion. And as you walk in, you see that there are at least 12 chains that all seem to have fallen from the bottom half and have just coiled themselves into these spirals. And looking forward, there is a stone platform that rises up that Osmandius is standing next to and says, "You wish to bring your friend back to life, do you not?"
I do.
No. Well, it is up to Skothka to determine if they are worthy of coming back to life. He is usually very agreeable, and you seem like you're also very agreeable.
What needs to happen?
Simply lay your friend in the pool, and we shall see what happens. Worst case scenario, they're already dead.
I'm gonna do it.
I look
Okay.
at you. Do you really think this is the wisest course of action?
Yes. Friend Ulman, this is the wisest course.
I look Albus in the eyes, and I, flash my eyes down.
Ulman, do you know something? This is a very different voice than Albus has used in the past.
What do you mean, do I know something? It's just... I don't like this. After everything that I've been through, this just... seems like more debt.
Well, that's fails. It's not a debt to Umberley.
You're gonna be really mad at me for this. Alright.
Okay.
If you think so, I trust you.
That's a horrible decision.
All right. So, the two of you then, with Osmandius's behest, lay Jilfa'en down into the water, and as you do, you feel that even though this looks like a calm pool, there is a current, and you can feel the water kind of passing by your hand, and as you set her body in, and this pool is maybe 20 feet in diameter, that she begins to float. And as she begins to float, she begins to rotate around in this pool. This is when we're going to cut over to Jilfa'en. Thought you were done with me, didn't you?
I did!
So, Jill, the last thing that you remember is being on the beach. You could hear the crash of waves off in the distance, and you see that there is this large skeletal juggernaut that raises up its hands, and it seems to just rock against you. And as you feel yourself falling back down onto the ground, you look over and you see that Albus does genuinely have a pseudo worried expression. an expression that you would at least address as worried. You're not necessarily sure if he knew it was worry at the time. And you see that Ulman has a look of genuine concern on his face as they watch as these skeletal mounds spin their sharpened bones into your sides, and your vision goes black, and all you can hear is the sound of crashing waves. And you continue to hear that sound through the darkness. And eventually you feel, as you lose your sense of self, there is still one thing that is consistent. And that is a bobbing sensation that seems to correlate to the cresting and falling of the waves off in the distance. And as you identify the sense of self, you begin to not necessarily see, because you aren't able to recognize that you have eyes in this moment, but you feel like you are just surrounded by an energy that you would color code as a bluish sea foamy green. And that is when you feel your sense of sight come back. And you see that there are small bubbles that seem to be going in front of you. There seemed to be a reflection of light coming through the top of an ocean down underwater. And as you look up, you cannot see a surface. As far as your vision goes, it looks like it is just more water. And as you are kind of getting your senses, getting your feelings back, you look down and you see that there is a borderline incorporeal outline of your body. It seems very faded. And you see that the symbol that you have on your left hand is glowing vibrantly, and that seems to actually have the most sense of self about it. You can see that there is a hand there, whereas in your right you can kind of see the outline of what looks almost to be like sea debris or krill that have just sort of made this outline for you. And as you are getting this sense back, you see that this lightish sea foamy green darkens. And then that dark color in front of you, you can see that there are two slits that form of this bright, vibrant yellow, and then both of them open into the shape of eyes. And it says, and you hear a voice, and it says, Jilfa'en Lythandar. Most unworthy servant I think I've ever had.
Well, I certainly didn't expect this to happen again, but here we are.
There is no again. You didn't drown. You died. And as it says you died, you can feel the ocean around you shudder.
Well, at least I get the satisfaction that it wasn't by your hands.
Do you think I'm ignorant? Do you think I don't know what you've been planning?
Whatever do you mean?
You're along the coast, talking with your friend. Glithaul? As you know him, Albus? I've heard what you've said about me, Jill. If you aim to kill me, if you aim to remove me from my place, I guarantee you it is not going to be an easy task. And you feel your entire body lurch underground, like within these waves, as it feels like there are different currents that are attempting to rip you limb from limb within this space.
I suppose it doesn't matter now.
Doesn't it?
Why? Are you concerned?
No. But you should be. Your family lives on the coast, don't they? I should know. They still make their offerings yearly. And without you here, sending me offerings, trying to drive away potential young new faces, whatever could happen to them, Jill?
She grits whatever could be considered her teeth, but says nothing. And then it's just like, why would you care? Aren't they beneath you? Aren't we all beneath you?
Yes. And that's why I care. Because as soon as one of you gets the idea into their head that maybe they shouldn't be beneath me, maybe they'd be better off without me, you humanoids, very susceptible to bad ideas. And that, Jilfa'en Lythandar, is a bad idea.
It's nothing more than a dream, really. One, I suppose, that I'll never see come to fruition.
And I should hope so. Because the sea, my dear, is eternal. I am ever present. I am always. You understand that, don't you? You understand what I have to do to you for your treason.
I'm not afraid.
You should be. And at that, you feel that there is a pulling coming from beneath you, and your sense of self begins to swirl. And you feel it getting picked by a current. And as that current continues, you feel bit by bit, piece by piece, the sense of self that you have managed to derive from all of this ends up getting torn apart. That this current is just so incredibly strong, and it is a maelstrom. You are caught in this large whirlpool to the point where you can look out and you can see that there is almost like a air chamber down the middle of it, and you aren't sure what will become of you. You can feel that deep down in your understanding of the planar tree, of this planar scape, that Umberly is not sending you anywhere pleasant. She's not sending you to Mount Celestia to live out the last of your days riding on the back of winged Pegasi. She's sending you to the hells, or worse, the abyss. And as you are getting pulled down, you hear Umberly's voice once again say, "There will always be a Lythandar underneath my thumb. Perhaps your mother next."
She'll struggle against the current.
And as you struggle against the current, you hear a sound. A sound that you were not expecting to hear. Because it is not muted by water. It is not related to water. It is the sound of metal. It is the sound of metal clinking against itself. And as you look, you see that there is a chain that is dangling towards you, caught also in this maelstrom.
I reach up and take it.
And as you reach up and take it, as you are getting pulled immediately from behind you and wrapping around the outside of this maelstrom, going in an opposite direction, you see that there is a red streak, that at the front of it is a angular arrow that begins to wrap, and then wrap upwards and upwards and upwards, and it actually seems to be going the opposite direction of this maelstrom. And as it continues to spiral out and go faster and faster, there is a slowing sensation as you aren't getting pulled as fiercely, and you hear Umberly say, "What is the meaning of this?" And then her voice goes quiet as this counter spiral seems to have abated the maelstrom that you were caught in. And things go dark. And you still feel yourself holding on to that chain. And you feel that there is gravity around you. You feel there is weight. Your vision comes back. First, your sense of touch, then your sense of smell. And as you breathe in with your nose, it's unrecognizable. This is electricity. This is the deep woods. This is the depths of the ocean, the highest mountain point. This is fresh snow. This is petrichor. This is a freshly baked apple pie. This is everything at once. And as your eyes open, you see that the chain that you are holding on to extends upward into darkness, and you see that there is a shape, a large, obtuse shape that just rests floating in the sky. And this sky is unlike anything you've seen before. As you look around, the sky is a deep red, but every single foot is different. It is changed. Something about it is not right, regardless of where you look. And as you are holding on to this chain with your left hand, you look down and you can see that the symbol of Umberly begins to shift and begins to shudder. And you watch as those lines come up over your hand and begin to twist and shape themselves. And as they do, you can see that they are turning themselves into a deep red spiral, a singular spiral line that begins at the outset of your wrist and then curls in over and over and over and over again until it reaches the middle. And that is when you hear an oddly reassuring voice. In all of this chaos and in all of this cacophony of planar activity that you see above you, you hear this voice, and it says, "It's been a while since I've had visitors. Hello, Jilfa'en Lythandar."
You'll have to forgive me, but I don't know who I'm speaking to.
That's all right. You'll come to know me in time. I've been here since the beginning. I shall be here until the very end of all things. For I am all things, stuck and put together, waiting for the day my chains are broken. You seek to remove the Lady of the Sea, do you not?
Were it feasible, yes.
Release me, and everything that seemed infeasible will be at your fingertips, Jilfa'en Lythandar. Do you want your family's safety? You can have it. Do you want the bitch queen removed, swallowed by the desert? It is yours. Or are you just simply looking for a quality country breakfast where you can talk about business with Faerun's worst boss? All of these can be possible, Jill. But I need your vow, I need your word that you will do one thing for me.
Before I get myself into anything, what might that be?
This chain that is in your hand, do you see it?
Yes.
Someday you will break it, and you will free me, and in doing so, everything you wish for will be yours.
Can I insight check?
You totally can. You can either make an insight check or a religion check if you would like.
We'll go with insight because that bad boy's higher. That is 23.
There is an undying amount of conviction in his voice. What he speaks is truth. There is no alternative.
She'll grip the chain tighter and say, I have chains of my own that I wish to break. And if it requires breaking yours, then I will do so.
What chains are those, Jilfa'en?
The ones that tie me to her, the ones that tie me to the sea.
You seek the tempest. You seek a storm as your source of strength. Look above you. This is the strongest storm there ever was. A storm the likes of which the plains have never seen. To remove the sea is but a simple thing. And this I will do for you. Gladly. And Jill, you feel that there is like a stomach-lurching moment that is almost like getting nausea or vertigo all at the same time. And you feel your body weaken for just a moment, and then your back stiffens as you kind of shoot straight up as you breathe in this heavy breath of wherever it is that you have found yourself. And as you do, as you've seen Ulman on a number of occasions just take a little huff of the essence of things that have come to pass, as this moment becomes you, as you are breathing it in, the chaos above you begins to filter down almost like a fine dust, and as you breathe in, bits and elements and particles from this entire sky seem to find their way into this singular breath that you draw in. Ulman and Albus, as the two of you have set Jill into this pool, you have watched as her body begins to spiral, as she begins to just list around in this otherwise still pool. And as she continues to spin, you hear that same clinking, the same jangling of metal, and you watch as the chains, these 12 chains that are littered around this cavern, begin to shake and they begin to jilt her. And you see that Osmandius begins looking at them. Contact has been established. And as he says that, you see that the current inside of this pool begins to quicken and quicken until eventually there is what looks to almost be like a funnel going downward. And you watch as Jill continues to cycle around, and as she does, as she gets into this lower ring of this whirlpool that has appeared inside of this small 20-foot diameter pool, you watch as the water goes from a very light blue to a darker red, as the chains that are hanging from the ceiling all begin to go from shaking to twisting and bending, as you hear the sounds of metal against metal kind of just scraping against themselves. And then you see that the chains that are on the ground that had dropped in these spiral formations are beginning to twist and wind themselves as well, as they all float up into the air. And you see now that these chains are floating and that they are twisting, all at different intervals. And this red pool that Jill is being sucked down into, as she gets closer and closer to the center, these chains quicken their pace, spiraling, until you see her get sucked down into this pool. And as these continue to spiral, it stops. The pool itself becomes immediately calm, as if there was never a disturbance on it to begin with. The chains themselves, going from these spiraling motions, stop and then loosely begin hanging from the ceiling of the chamber. Once again, the chains that had come up from the ground all collapse downward and also form these spiral patterns once again on the ground.
Can I go in and retrieve Jill?
As you are going up to the side of the pool, Osmandius says, "We've done all that we could now, but I think your friend is going to be all right." And as he says that, Albus, as you are looking down into this pool, you see a darkened form. And this form starts out small and then begins rising towards the surface. And you can see that it is a humanoid shape. And this humanoid shape eventually floats to the surface, and you can see their figure breaking through. And it is your friend Jill.
And run over as well.
Ulman, as you run over, and Albus, as you look down, you see that Jill's eyes open, and she takes in a deep breath of air. And Jill, that is where your vision stops from seeing this large chained entity. And you find yourself in the cavern breathing in this very rich sea air. And you kind of cough a little bit because there's no way that you didn't get some into your nose and into your lungs. But Albus, you and Ulman both see Jill. And what is everyone's passive perception?
12.
14.
Okay. So since Ulman had taken off Jill's leather armor, you can see that the symbol that she had on her hand has changed from the markings that she had before, which were a lighter blue, to now a deep red that almost looks like it is bruised or bloodied, like it is a permanent scrape that is in this pattern. And you can both make religion checks if you would like.
13.
14 and 13? Neither of you are familiar with what this symbol would be. And as Jill, as you are kind of riding yourself, coughing up the seawater, you place your hand onto the side of the of this pool that you have been set in. Osmandius looks down, gives a very soft, gentle smile and nods. Says, "The Endless Lord has chosen you wisely." And then gives you a gentle bow. And that is where we are going to call it for tonight's session. So, I would like to say, first and foremost, thank you to my wonderful players for putting up with my bullshit for the last while. Dingo, I'm sorry you couldn't be here. You're gonna have a real fun crew to come back to.
How dare you say it so casually like that?
Because
Thank you for putting up with my bullshit.
Thanks for putting up with my bullshit, guys.
I think this is just another regular session of D&D, guys.
Yeah. It's a completely regular session of D&D.
So, speaking of regular sessions of things, hey, Reeves, where can we find you? What do you do?
Hi, I'm Reeves. You can find me at twitch.tv, Reeves_bot, or on Twitter, the same name. I stream on Wednesdays, where I'm trying to play every game that I own, and it's a long and arduous process that will take me years, but I have 3 of those games are chosen by a rotating co-host every week, and I try to decide if they're worth putting more time into or not. And then on Thursdays, you can find me here. Wonderful place, wonderful people, but you're here, so you might already know. And then on Sundays, I am playing through Divinity 2 on a tactician mode with a couple of my friends, and we're all having a great time.
Excellent. Cyber, where can we find you? What do you do?
Hi, I'm Cyber. You can find me at CyberWolf1201 on Twitter, where I ship posts and just talk about stuff, sort of like things like announcements for whenever I go live on twitch.tv/CyberWolf1201, where I play video games real badly, but I talk about the lore. I'm playing a new game that's just coming out. I'm playing Spoopy Game on Saturday. I'm playing Blair Witch. I don't know how it's gonna go. I'm sure I'm gonna be spooked. But yeah, it's gonna be a good time. I'm probably gonna die a lot and scrim. But all the archives of that go to a YouTube that has a legible URL now, youtube.com/CyberWolf1201. You can go there for all those archives. You can go there for the podcast that KyleWithAnN I do called Let's Talk About It, where we get drunk, do parkour, and talk about stuff. We are going to talk about this. And we'll be recording one of those this weekend. Maybe more than one of those this weekend. Because I hate myself and I have one more day over this weekend to actually edit things and get them out. But because we got that wonderful legible URL, we are giving away this. It's a Critical Role Jester pin. It's so cute. You could have only gotten it at Gen Con, but one lucky person can go to my Twitter at CyberWolf1201 and go look at that pinned tweet and do some stuff and get entered into a giveaway. That's going to end next Saturday. So get in there fast. Yeah. For role-playing stuff, I'm here on Mondays too. I play Arjan. He's a black dragonborn that gets nosebleeds. And then I'm here. But you already knew that. Bye.
All right, Kylan.
Hi, everyone. I'm sure it's great to see me again. What a nice welcome back. Hi, everyone. I'm Kylan, otherwise known as KyleWithAnN. You can find me on Twitch. I stream Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. That's goofy. If you want to see when I'm streaming, go to my Twitter. Other than that, other things I'm in, if you want to catch me being another sad girl on the sea, you can catch me on twitch.tv/off_the-table. Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. EST for a game that has a different tone. And yeah, listen to Let's Talk About It on YouTube and Anchor.fm and iTunes and all the other places where podcasts are available. Okay, bye now.
And if you have made it this far, you probably already know who I am. But if you don't, hey fella, how's it going? It's me, your buddy, your pal, your friend. You're totally not angsty deities found in the abyss. The Indoor Adventurer. I do this show Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm the showrunner here. We also have our YouTube set up at Indoor Adventures. Then you can find us wherever audio casts are found, also with the same name. We also have a Patreon set up. So if you would like to support us via Patreon and possibly tune in to the audio podcast that we do for our after show called Nights in the Courtyard, where we talk about stuff that happened in the game. I answer questions from the players answer questions from the community. It's a good time. And all of that good time can be found at patreon.com/indooradventures. I'm also going to be putting up the rule set for the dice game that I made from the Four Keeps quite some time ago called Ordstone. It has been updated to include a basic, an advanced, and an expert mode. There's a lot of additional stuff that you can find with Ordstone. I've been getting Reeves' help actually on playtesting and building it out. So if you are interested in possibly playing a Indoor Adventures dice game, consider supporting us on Patreon. It'd mean a lot. And with that is where we are going to go into our after show. So once again, thank you to all these players for putting up with my bullshit every week. I know it's great. And thank you to the audience for, as always, for coming out and hanging out with us while we do our thing. So here's till next week, guys. All right, everybody. Bye-bye.